Helping and caring for others is something that I hold close to my heart. It has always been enjoyable to me, and I've always wanted to pursue it later in my life. So as I got older and started thinking about what kind of job to pursue, I came across pediatric occupational therapy. With this in mind, I've been personally working with my aunt, who owns her own occupational therapist practice. She has a big concentration in children with autism, and this is why this topic is so important to me. What is autism? Autism is a very complex developmental disability that typically appears in the first 2 years of life. It's the result of a neurological disorder that affects the functioning of the brain, and it impacts the development of social interaction, communication, and peer interaction. It affects non-verbally and verbally. Autism is very common, and it's on the rise. It's affecting an estimated 1 in 100 births a year, as stated for the Centers of Disease Control Prevention. Roughly translated, that means that 1.5 million Americans are believed to have some form of autism. There's many areas that you might target when treating a child with autism. These areas could include social and peer interaction, play, self-regulation, school-based therapy, occupational therapist, and speech pathologist. First, concerning some of the issues that therapists may target. Play. A lot of children with autism lack the ability to use their imagination, and this is where therapists simply just let the child play with giving them a means of a start and end. This helps them build their imagination up. Self-regulation is also another big issue that we work with in the office. Children with autism tend to get out of control and don't know how to regulate themselves. So we do things such as letting them crash into big mats to explode their feelings. Social and peer interaction is also a big topic. This is where we do things such as running groups to let the children interact with each other and learn how to talk and communicate. Occupational therapists are very important therapists when treating a child with autism. An occupational therapist's job is to help improve the ability to perform daily tasks. They're very beneficial, and we do things such as running groups to work on peer involvement, like I said, play and communication, or simply letting them use their imagination. Speech pathologists are also very important. They work with communication. Communication is essential for anyone to sustain behaviors, sustain friendships, express emotions, etc. Speech pathologists try to integrate things into play and learning to make it fun. We do things such as saying, kick the ball as they kick it. Lastly, school-based occupational therapists are also very beneficial. They do things such as working with general schooling, like math, reading, and writing, to helping adjust the classroom. For example, from Ruth Huebner's book about school about autism, having children sit on balance balls instead of regular chairs helps them to focus. This is the fact that they're less bored and they're better able to concentrate on what they're doing. Sensory processing is the last issue. It is one of the most commonly used techniques in therapy for treating children with autism. It's used to define and describe a disorder in a common medical language. There's 7 groups to this, and they include tactile, vestibular, proprioception, visual, auditory, gustatory, and olfactory. Sensory processing involves how one's body receives, interprets, organizes, sends the messages to the rest of our body, as quoted from the book Asperger's Syndrome and Sensory Issues. Children with autism tend to lack some of the senses or they do not work correctly, and this is where we help them. First, tactile is all about the skin and the body. It includes your touch, temperature, and pain. Children with autism can be hypersensitive, which is oversensitive, or hyposensitive, which is undersensitive to things, such as they may not like to put on clothes or be hugged. Next, vestibular is how you deal with gravity. It's everything from moving to direction to speed. This is usually a major issue with children with autism, and this is where therapists try to integrate games into the therapy and encourage them to play sports. Proprioception is all about the muscles and the joints. It's everything from pushing, pulling, to flexing and stretching. It's a huge part of this is balance. Children with autism lack this too. Having children with autism wear a weighted vest, as stated in the book How to Train and Run, is a very commonly used technique. This helps to calm them down and let them focus. Visual is all about the eyes and picking out details. its movement, texture, color, and compared with other sensory issues, the visual system appears to be a relative strength for children. Auditory is hearing and paying attention. It includes your sounds, your tones, your pitches. Children with autism tend to be very hypersensitive to sound, which means any little thing can bother them. In the office, we let them wear headphones, which calms them down so that they can focus. Goose story is all about the taste. It's distinguishing your sour, your bitter, and your sweet. The main issue with children with autism is that in Goose story is that they are very picky. This is where they do not always eat properly, and therapists try to encourage the parents to include different food groups into their diet. Lastly, olfactory is all about the nose and the smells. From the research of Miles, Cook, and Miller, over 75% of children with autism were considered to have oral sensitivity. When asked whether they avoided certain smells that are a typical part of the environment, they responded affirmatively. So it appears that smell is a big problem area. This is where we do things in the office such as carrying a peppermint in their pocket. And when they need to calm themselves down, they can pull it out and smell it. In conclusion, there's much diversity in the therapeutic interventions for children with autism. There's countless variables that are factored in. You need to take in the severity level, the parents' needs, and the child's needs. And I've definitely seen this working in the occupational therapist office. Every child with autism is different in their own way.